Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. This is the Katie Wellness Show, and I am your host, Lindsay Katie. And I am so excited that you are back or that you're here for the first time. So, welcome. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about reprogramming our brains. How do we know if we need to reprogram our brains? Why would we want to do something like that? And how. If you like what you're hearing and you want to figure out how, um, stay tuned because we're going to talk about it here. So I have a couple questions. Do you notice certain patterns or tendencies that many of your family members have in common? Are there certain personality traits that you would consider family traits? Generational patterns can be positive or negative and can be passed down from one generation to the next without consciously being aware of it. Some generational patterns that I can think of would be like more on the positive side would be very service minded or service oriented families. That can be a positive trait, just more of a giving or nurturing type personality. Some negative generational traits that can come to mind or that I often see in the clients that I work with is maybe explosive anger, or the complete opposite, like bottling it up until it's so big that it just explodes everywhere. So those are examples, just very basic examples of generational patterns. They can be as simple as that, or they can be very more complex. But as we go through life, we also gain our own beliefs based on our personal experiences. So we have our personal um, tendencies or patterns, and we also have our generational patterns. So all of these patterns come together to make us who we are, to create our beliefs, to create our patterns, our tendencies, our coping mechanisms, our beliefs about ourselves or the world around us. And one example of how this works when we're little, when we maybe don't consciously make choices. So when a baby cries and doesn't get attention, that baby begins to learn that her voice doesn't matter. She may start to keep her thoughts and her feelings to herself as she gets older. And she may start to form beliefs about herself that may or may not be true. Beliefs like, I am unlovable, or I can't rely on others. Generational beliefs and personal beliefs are forming from the very beginning of our lives. In that same instance, in that same example, if a baby were to cry and did get the attention, they would start to form beliefs of, I can trust certain people, or if I cry, I will get attention, right? That might be a negative side of that attention. And it's all about perception, about personal perception, how we perceive the experiences that are going on around us. So it's not to say that your parents didn't do the best job that they knew how, or that you as a parent are not doing the best job that you know how to do with the knowledge and the resources that you have. It's just to say that all of us internalize or interpret our experiences differently, which is why it is important for us to know when it's time to reprogram our brain and how to do that, so we can break through some of these cycles, because these generational beliefs and personal beliefs are forming from the very beginning of our lives. When they're formed when we're really young and we maybe don't understand how the world works, or how we actually get our needs met. As we get older, we maybe are stuck in these old patterns and in these old way of thinking and in these old beliefs and in these old games, but they aren't actually working to get our needs met. Oftentimes, these beliefs can manifest as physical pain and illness and unexplained symptoms. So I have another question. What is processing? I've talked a lot about this on my Instagram account and in previous episodes. What is processing and how does it reprogram the brain? Integrative processing technique is the modality that I use. It is a mix of different modalities. It's a mix of age regression and inner child work. We do visualization work, neuro-linguistic programming. So using the brain and our thoughts and also our voice to reprogram the pathways in our brain. I use applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing. We use role play, and it's also, as part of my background and my training, I study how our thoughts and our feelings affect our health, which I see so many of my clients have an emotional component going into the deterioration of their health. So how can we change this programming? How can we change this perspective to allow our thoughts and our beliefs to support us in creating a healthy life, in creating a healthy environment, in creating good energy flow within our bodies so our bodies can heal? So processing is just the name of it, right? But essentially it is a um, guided visualization, guided role play exercise where I help you identify at least one coping strategy that you currently use in your life. Often this comes from a place of where you're feeling maybe triggered or stuck, or you're having a lot of physical pain in a certain area. That's kind of where it starts. And we start every session with an intention, right? What is it in your life that is keeping you stuck, or that is making you very frustrated, or that feels really heavy? And then we start from there. We identify where some of the core beliefs associated with this problem started. So that's where the muscle testing comes into place. So it just allows me to access your subconscious mind, right? We want to allow that subconscious mind to come to our awareness more so that we can start to unravel some of these beliefs that really aren't working in our favor anymore. So after identifying at least one coping strategy, we explore how it's helping you, how it's hurting you, and if it's actually getting you what you want. Is it fulfilling a need? By identifying and working through some of these questions, we open space in your brain to form new habits or strategies or pathways in the brain that help you show up in your life, that help you take back your power, that help you release the energy that is stuck in your body that is making you sick or that is preventing you from healing. And it allows you to finally be able to show up in your own life in the way that you want, in who you are at your core, who you are as your true self. It helps you get closer to this person who is there, but she's just buried by all of this negative programming, all of these negative beliefs about self, all these negative or unhelpful beliefs about the world around you. We want to help you get to where you feel really good about your life and how you're showing up and your journey, whether it's a health journey or just a personal fulfilling journey of life and of motherhood. So an example, I just want to share a couple of examples to maybe kind of get your mind thinking. An example of one of these coping strategies is believing that you have to please others in order to get love. So maybe when you were growing up, your parent only gave you praise and recognition when you did something really good, something that was maybe you sang in a talent show or performed well in a sport, and that was the only time that your parent gave you praise or recognition. So maybe you start to form this belief that I have to please others, I have to perform well in order to get love. And or maybe that parent, or maybe a parent only gave you attention or praise when you were helpful. So now you're stuck in this cycle of people pleasing as an adult. It's draining your energy, it's harmful to your health, and it's actually not getting you what you want anymore. So during a processing session, I help you uncover these patterns. And through the visualization and the role play exercises that we do during the process, we release these patterns and these beliefs and the energy associated with them that is stuck in your body. We release them from your life. And we also help you find new patterns that you want to create that do actually get you what you want. The science behind it is so fascinating. But essentially, in its basic core, we're identifying a coping strategy. We're exploring how it's helping, hurting, and how it is fulfilling a need. And then we allow your brain to change lanes, basically. Oftentimes we're on autopilot with the coping strategies that we use. We're on autopilot, right? Our kid does something that makes us really frustrated, and instantly we are on autopilot to belittling or criticizing or yelling at or making our kids feel really bad. And maybe that's how we um, perceive that other, that's how we perceive that that's how a need will get met. Maybe if I belittle my kid and if I yell at my kid, they'll actually do what I need them to do, right? And maybe that's how it worked in your family growing up, that when a parent or an adult would yell or criticize or belittle, it made you work harder, or it could have the opposite effect, right? It made you completely pull back and maybe even be rebellious to the other extreme. But we want to change this programming. So instead of being stuck in this habit of, I feel triggered, I act in this way, then I feel shame and regret and embarrassment, and I can't believe I acted that way, and I never want to do that again. Yet next time we feel triggered, or next time that same action or a similar action happens again, we go right back in that cycle. We want to break that cycle. That's what reprogramming your brain does. That's what integrative processing technique does. There are other modalities out there that do it, but this one, for me personally, has been so life-changing in helping me to find my own voice, and helping me to show up, in helping me to release the energy that I've been holding onto for so long that is no longer serving me. So during processing, we identify that habit loop that is no longer working, and we release it and we find a new way. So it's giving your body and your mind, your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, permission to change lanes, permission to break that cycle, permission to choose another way. And it's really healing, and it's very powerful. And it's probably my most favorite service that I offer, because it is such a moving experience for me as a facilitator, but also for the people, the clients that I work with. So a couple of recommendations. If you decide to try out emotional processing, if you decide to try out an emotional processing session, um, if there are a lot of issues to work through, if you feel like I'm in a lot of pain, or I feel like I'm just in a really dark place, I would recommend several sessions, 5 or 6 sessions over the course of 5 or 6 months. Like once a week is fine. Once a month is fine. Um, as often as you need. I wouldn't recommend more than once a week, but when you start to feel things creeping back up and when you start to feel things showing up, I recommend scheduling another session when you start feeling stuck again, or when you start noticing the cycles of, oh, I hate this cycle. I want to get off this cycle, but I really don't know how. I've tried and I've tried and I've prayed and I've asked for help. And not to say that Christ can't help you and that his atonement isn't valid or that it doesn't work. But for me personally, I needed to see another way. Before I could fully let go of the old way, I needed to see a new way. And this process, this has helped me to see the new way, to trust the new way, especially in the beginning. And as I've gotten better at identifying the coping mechanisms in myself that are no longer working, I am able to let go and to trust God more. So there is that aspect of it as well. So the other recommendation is if there's abuse of any kind involved, whether it's emotional, sexual, physical, financial, if there's abuse of any kind, it will likely take more. But I want to encourage you that processing works. It works in connection with if you are doing traditional therapies or other modalities. I know EMDR has similar effects to integrative processing technique. Emotion code has similar, they all work in connection with each other, but processing works. It works to release the emotional hurt, guilt, shame, fear, confusion, and any other pain that's being held in your body by holding on to these beliefs that are no longer serving you. My most favorite part of a processing session is that once we have done the visualization exercises to release the hurt and the pain and the negative beliefs and the coping mechanisms that are no longer working, we release all of those to a higher power. We always complete the healing cycle by replacing it with a gift from your higher power. So whether that's Mother Earth or the universe or God or Heavenly Father or Jesus Christ or Heavenly Mother, white light, whoever you identify as your higher power, bringing that person in or bringing that power in is so healing. And where it may feel scary to let go of the hurt and the pain and the guilt and the regret, where it may feel scary to let go of those and it may feel empty and you may feel like, oh, I need to hurry and fill this back up. Part of the process is we fill that back up with a gift from someone who knows you personally, who loves you infinitely, and who will love you no matter how messed up you feel, no matter how no matter how little you feel, no matter how many times you've messed up, filling that void, that we've gotten rid of that negative energy and now we're filling it with a beautiful gift. That's probably my favorite part. And it truly helps to complete the cycle, to reprogram the brain. And I recommend it for everyone. I really do. At least once, to try it at least once and see how it helps. I've helped so many people through processing. There was one client I had who had been going to all of the doctors for testing. She was having a lot of blockage in her throat. She wasn't able to swallow solid foods. And after working with her a couple of sessions, she was able to swallow food again, which she hadn't been able to do for months. I had another client who, and this is my experience as well, but was having a lot of digestive issues, more on the constipation side, right? And I did a process specifically for releasing what's no longer serving me, releasing, like allowing the flow of energy to come back to my digestive system. And in less than 24 hours, I was having regular bowel movements, which maybe that's TMI, but we're going to talk about that here on this podcast. Not so much today, but in future episodes. Having processing to help balance the emotional side of things is such a gift. Another client was having a lot of headaches, frequent headaches, daily headaches, taking the pills like the medications, the ibuprofen, the acetaminophen, and still was not having a lot of relief. They were doing a lot of things to try and combat the headaches, but were not able to find answers. So after one session, she said that was the first time that she's gone without a headache in a long time, for several days at least, which I think that's such a testament to the processing technique, to the modality, that it can take physical symptoms, and because we're willing to release that energy, it can be replaced with healing. So if you are curious to know more whether reprogramming your brain is for you, hopefully I've answered some good questions for you. But if you have additional questions, please reach out, send me a DM on Instagram, contact me through my website. Both of those are linked below. And there are a couple of free resources in the show notes, so go check those out. I have a free slow the burn, an anti-inflammation protocol. That's free. You can click the link and go get that from my website. Let me know if you have any other questions, or if you want to ask specific questions about your situation, and if I think processing would help for that. Chances are the answer is yes. So I do. I believe in this work. I am very passionate about helping women to realize that our emotions are so attached to our physical body. And if we're holding on to emotions and stuffing them down and not feeling free to express them, or not feeling like our voice matters, that will manifest as dis-ease in our body. It will manifest as pain. It will manifest as weight gain. It will manifest as unexplained symptoms. This process works, and I believe in it. And I hope to bring it to as many people as possible. That's all I have for my episode today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you back next week.